Okay, so this is the Drupal usability meeting for January 24th, 2017. And we have 3 topics proposed so far. The media library, architecture question on off-canvas, and the place block module to be stable. So we want to start with media library since that's probably the biggest topic.
Yes.
So what's the question that we're trying to answer on media library?
So I think Emily is looking to work on it, and she may have questions, or she may be blocked on things, or she may be totally fine and we don't need to talk about this.
Sure. So right now, I've been looking at the media library cards and just trying to fix those up to match some of the color styles and also work in a more uniform way. So I don't know if everyone has anything in addition to just, so I can share screen because this is an example that I have right now. Okay, so this is an example of the current media library, and right now I'm working on adjusting these cards so that that's more readable, and hopefully seeing if we can do something about some of the image styles, and because right now that's
Kind of messy.
a bit odd. Yeah, thanks. So I don't know if anyone else has anything in addition to what I'm currently looking at there.
That's definitely one thing that definitely needs to be worked on. I think that there was something, if I recall from the last time I looked at Sam's stuff that he demoed, there are a couple of little subtle issues around the experience when you're actually uploading into the when you're uploading media files into a node. Although a lot of that was pretty cool, he actually had gotten drag drop reordering of the images and various different other things. But I think there's some similar style issues in that as well. I don't know whether the styles you're applying here are going to carry over into that experience, or whether they need to be added also elsewhere or referenced, or I don't know.
Okay, yeah, so I think that one uses the same view. So I'm hoping that those carry over, but I'll double check that too then.
Cool. Did you see? I think I put some screenshots in this issue as well about with some color stuff about making the colors conform to 7 style guide.
Yes, yeah. So that's one of the things that I'm going to do.
Awesome.
There.
That's cool. Now, I don't have any other any off the top of my head any other media related things.
So I think one of the key things that was raised is the tabs list media types now, and Kevin raised earlier that this may not be extensible in terms of adding other tabs that are like regular Drupal tabs that may just be an entirely different page. And then the behavior would be confusing because you have some tabs that are filters on this view and some other tabs that are entirely different pages. And Wim raised the concern that maybe you have images that are from Flickr and images that are local, or videos that are from YouTube and videos that are from Vimeo, and you probably want to have filters for video and image, and not for whatever the backend is for it. So instead of using the type, you would use some meta category, taxonomy, whatever. And if we use tabs then we generate these tabs from code because we don't have a way from views to spawn tabs on the page. So both because of the extensibility concern from Kevin and the typing concern from Wim, I think that we talked earlier on the UX meeting to rethink the use of tabs for filtering of the type and maybe figure out something else.
Okay, so in that case, maybe a filter down here with the rest of the filters.
Yeah, that would be the default choice.
Yeah, we talked about the possibility of having, you know, some preloaded default filters and doing a kind of and using that kind of chosen or select to pattern, even if we don't use that library, because there is an open issue to get the select to library into core, but we don't necessarily have to use that in order to have, filters that are, that behave like pills that can be dismissed, or preloaded ones as well. I think that that could be valuable, but it kind of also means that those preloaded filters would have to be created, and that's not just simply a theming or styling issue. It's got implications on the way the data gets onto the page.
Yeah, that gets quite a bit out of the MVP range, I think.
Yeah, so I think the MVP then is just use the filters that we already use, the standard exposed filters from views.
I'm just not sure that our current filter UI is viable.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sad to see this crap between the blue button and the actual thumbnails of stuff. It's a pity.
The whole action thing and all of that stuff. Yeah.
I mean, so one possible interim solution would be just have the filters, right? But then next to, or for example, to the left of the filters, we could just have some hard-coded filters that are displayed as kind of pills, and you could click on those, and that would effectively reset. It would be like the reset button of your regular filters, but it would just go to that particular group. But that introduces the problem of well, then how do I further filter that group? If I further filter them, then all of a sudden now I'm going to bring back in the things that I thought I just filtered away by looking on images or videos.
Yeah, it would also be like a whole new filter interaction design for this, which the tabs were like sort of a new filter interaction that we got with the design, but it raised several problems and made it less configurable, and
I think what it comes down to is that for the MVP of media, we just need to put the filters in as they are, but we need to see this as an important kind of red flag for us to really reassess filters on a global level.
Yeah.
Right, but then do we decide to live with the crappy version or not introduce filters?
By live with the crappy version, you mean live with the filters of Drupal, the filters that Drupal provides, or because I think we're going to agree definitely that we don't use the tabs, right? Because of the problems that Gabor identified.
I don't know. I'm not sure. So if this would evolve in the next version, can we rip out the tabs then and provide these non-scalable maybe semi-hard-coded tab filters now and leave it at that and iterate?
I don't know what you think, Gabor.
So we are certainly proposing the media library as an experimental modules, which would allow, we're probably getting the alpha something. So it would definitely allow us to tinker with a lot of things and get feedback. And yeah, so we can define our MVP however we believe is best. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess then the question comes down to, do we release an initial media library for dozens of assets or for thousands of assets? Because dozens I can manage, right? I don't need filters for dozens of media items.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I think we should have. I don't think that anybody is suggesting. At least I wouldn't suggest that we should release this without filters in it. You know, I think that the question is, do we have default filters, and how do we display the default filters, given the fact that displaying them as tabs presents both an architectural and an extensibility problem.
Yeah, I was kind of suggesting to ship without filters. Because our out-of-the-box solution is not so good, and I agree that the tabs is not really something we should introduce, because it's not
so
how we're supposed to be using them. Sorry.
Sorry. So when we say filters, we also mean the tabs at the top. Those are also filters. So.
Yeah, they are currently filters. Yeah.
Well, so here's an out-of-the-box kind of left field solution, right? Ultimately, what we want, right, or ultimately what at least what I think would be, you know, a solution that, you know, is better in terms of UX and more common is a kind of a multi-filter or a multi-select kind of a filtering system where you can filter on several different categories, right? So that's really what Select2 or Chosen or those libraries provide us. It provides you a way to select multiple things to filter on, and to dismiss some of those things and, you know, resort them in a kind of a facet kind of a way. So we have a pattern in core for this that we very seldom use, but there is a multi-select widget. So we could use the multi-select widget in a temporary fashion until we get to a stage where we have something like Chosen or Select2 or our own homegrown, you know, dismissible pill version or whatever it is. Is everybody familiar with the multi-select widget that we have in core?
Yep.
Not really.
It's kind of ugly. I mean, it's just a big. It's like a big box. But we could put it in a collapsible field set, and so that it only opens when you need it, or like in a summary and details element, and then people could expand it out and make their choices, and then collapse it back up again. We can style it in some better ways. It's less, but it's more compact, and I think could be easier to use than what we have. And it also could have, and it also offers, because it's a multi-select, offers the option of us having, you know, a kind of a, you know, selections in the list that are an aggregated filter of a particular type, like all images, all videos, that kind of thing. Roy, you're like your friend.
It's also the least usable form widget. Right? Yeah, it's the one where you have to like Command or Shift click, right?
Yeah, that's that one.
Yeah.
That's I think the type of field select that Chosen takes over, so it would still be the same backend data.
Exactly. That's one of the reasons for using it, is because it would gracefully degrade or gracefully sort of upgrade into that that widget if we were going to do that.
Right.
So, do you have to command click? I recall the last time I used it, you could just click multiple without using a key.
Oh, okay, maybe.
I'm wondering why not using simply select box and we group all of them, a checkbox basically. For this, if we want to multi-select the tab options at the top, if I understand correctly.
It would just because it doesn't scale very well, because you could end up with a very large number of of selects or checkboxes.
Okay, so yeah, we don't want to take much space, basically.
Yeah, we ultimately want something. So, what do you think, Emily?
I think it makes sense to use the multi-select if we're going to upgrade to Chosen soon. If that's definitely the plan, I think that would be a good first step.
So the blocker on upgrading to, and it's select, the one that has an open issue for adding into core is select to.
Okay.
The blocker for that for the last 2 years since I introduced the issue, 2+ years since I introduced the issue, is accessibility, which and it's not our accessibility issue. It's upstream in the JavaScript library itself. They've just released a new version of Select 2, version 5.0, which has fixes in it and is a lot better. I don't know for certain whether it resolves the accessibility issues that it had. It may or it may not. But ultimately, I mean, I've always kind of felt that this is like, just ourselves getting in the way of our own progress because jQuery autocomplete has the exact same accessibility issues. It's no better, and that's what we use right now. So, I don't know.
And what another quick hack could be, can we push these filters that we see here still on the screen behind the field set? I was looking at the recent log messages screen in Core.
Yeah, that's what happens. Yeah.
And I have to, on a Mac, I have to command click to make a multiple selection.
Oh, yeah, that is the widget that I was talking about. It's
the
one in the log messages. Yeah, okay. So, well, that's less than ideal. Yeah.
So I guess the problem for the current tabs we have is also because it doesn't support multi-select. Is that correct?
That's actually an additional problem to the ones that were articulated by Gabor. The first problem was that that any module can add tabs to the secondary tabs, and then you have a mismatch between two different things that are in the same group. Some of them are filtering things that are on the page, and others are links that are taking you to a new page. So we don't want to do that. The second problem is with typed data and the way that it's stored. And then what you're saying is essentially the third part, which is actually another issue, which is that you can't multiple select them. You couldn't say and, you couldn't and them together, and you kind of do want to do that. Like even if we had sort of aggregated ones like all videos, all social media, all images, you would want to say all videos and all images, but not all social media. So you would want to and them together.
So that would be a multi-select box and or checkboxes, but yeah.
I mean, you can do that with we could do that with our current filtering system. We could do that with our current filters that we get from exposed filters and views. But as Emily pointed out, that doesn't gracefully, provide the groundwork for us to move into a better solution like Chosen or Select 2.
It does not? No? Okay.
Well, I mean, it doesn't. It just means that there would be more work. There would be more work to upgrade from our current filters to Select 2 than there would be to introduce Select 2 if we already have a multi-select. Because Select 2 specifically restyles a multi-select to be dismissible tails. That's what it does. So.
Right. So there's lots to figure out for filters, basically on a core wide level, right? And that's always the risk, right, with introducing new stuff, and then we see our old stuff, and we want to improve it, but it shouldn't hold the actual improvement back.
I think ultimately, if in the case of this, we want to get this in, so we shouldn't be blocked on it. We should just make a decision and go with it. I think I feel like what the decision is coming down to now is, do we use multi-select here because we know it will set the groundwork for us to do something like Select 2, or do we use the other standard filter widget that we get from views, bulk operations, and and then collapse it in a field set or something like that. I think that's our choice today.
Yep.
I'm not sure even where I stand on that.
I would lean towards the views filters. So what we're seeing now, but maybe collapse by default, and add the media type filtering to this.
Yeah. There is another issue.
I would. I mean, my default choice would be to default to the more pragmatic use what you have approach. That's the reasoning why I would choose one of those.
Yeah, I think that might be the right way. It's not going to be, if we're gonna go to something like Select 2, there's going to be significant amount of work in it anyway, and just swapping out the widget is going to be probably the least of the worries.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Is that something you can do, Emily? Rip out those tabs, make them filters in views?
Or is...
Yep, I think I can do that. I'll look at it and make sure, but...
I know you can, but just
it's really just
don't want to introduce blockers by making decisions.
It's really just default configuration, I think, really, right? Because all you're doing is you're taking the view and you're adding a new select to it, which is a new category of sort of default selects.
Yeah, I think it's going to remove complexity from the view because from the patch also, because the patch has like custom or link generation to generate those tabs, and it has some argument handling in the view to take the arguments from the path and that kind of stuff. So that would simplify things.
Cool. That's good.
Here. Great. So that only leaves us with that silly PDF icon I designed 9 years ago. I have the screenshot to prove it. It's 2008.
So that is one other thing that is something that you could work on if you had time, Emily. Is icons. I started this and I uploaded a bunch of SVGs into one of the issues. Just as a stab at getting the different kind of icons that we need for the different file types in SVG format, as opposed to PNG, which is what we have in core right now. But I didn't get really that far with it. There were some issues and comments on that post my putting those icons in from a couple of people.
And I think we'll want to add those to the LaborCons library then.
That was exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I think we would do that.
Yeah,
There's
now
an issue around translatability because they have file extensions in them, but I don't know whether whether those are universally understood or whether those are language specific, even though they are like written in Latin script and in and essentially are shortened English names of things, you know, .txt, etc.
Okay.
Yeah, guys, can you still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking at this. I see the hover effect over this document. I guess when you hover over it, you will see the title of this document. Is this correct? Is this how it works? It seems so, right?
That we're seeing the title of the media asset, you mean?
Oh, yeah. My main concern is actually this hover effect, how this will work on mobile, for example. Will this have impact? Because basically on mobile, we probably can't see what the title of this document is. Or
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, what on the hover effect, what do we do? Yeah, exactly. What do we do for the because if the title only appears on hover, that's not going to be that's not going to be for touch devices. That's not going to work. There needs to be an affordance there that there's something touchable, like maybe a little arrow at the bottom that's tappable, and then the thing pops up or something like that.
Yeah. Normally, yeah, this type of interaction makes me think if we are overcomplexing things, we could simply just show everything by default. And yeah, you know, if books, I'm not sure what's the preview will be for those are icons, the type of document or something. I mean, comparing to this, maybe the title has more value. So like on mobile, if you want to save space, you probably want to show the title by default. Yeah, so that's
Yeah. Well, we shouldn't conflate. There's two things. Number one is that to your question, that these in many instances will be images because we're talking about media here, and whether they're a thumbnail of a video or a thumbnail of an image, or a rendered thumbnail of a social media post or something like that. So they will be visual. In instances where they're not visual, they'll contain what we were just talking about a second ago, which is a file type icon. And that is also helpful visually because they visually differentiate themselves. So there's some value in making a more visual interface for something that is in many cases a very visual item, and relegating the text to a secondary position. We should give some kind of an affordance, that if we have something that appears on hover, we should also have an affordance for touch devices that, that tapping it will open something else up, like I said, like an arrow or a tab or something on the bottom of those icons. However, we shouldn't make the assumption that mobile equals small screen, right? Mobile does not, or touch device equals small screen. Touch device could be, a large touch device, a full size desktop touch device or Surface or something like that. And for smaller screens, we should have media queries. There is a question of whether the the titles should be exposed in those media queries or not.
What happens now, Emily, if you narrowed? What happens now, Emily, if you narrow the screen?
Oh.
Oh, that's a start.
They at least reflow, yeah. I think they are. It's already using Flexbox and stuff like that.
Yeah.
which is cool.
So have we considered having more of a card style with the text underneath?
I don't, that's not part of the design, the original design that we had, but I think that could certainly work. And it encompasses or it sort of resolves the questions that I just mentioned a second ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, indeed.
But however, there is still the question, and I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce your name. Is it Jingyu?
Xinyu.
Jingyu.
Yeah.
Your point about you know, the titles is very good. However, Drupal by default doesn't just put the titles there. It also dumps in a whole lot of other meta information. And we don't necessarily want to, even if we do have cards that display the titles, we don't necessarily want to show all of the meta information that Drupal provides, because it could be a lot, right? And we want to,
Yes, indeed.
yeah, we want to keep them compact. So there may still be an expand and collapse function that sort of exposes the rest of the information. You know, that could be valuable, I think.
Yeah, so if we had, if we had that expand affordance for all of them, whether on mobile or widescreen, that would expand the metadata, maybe that would be a way to go about it.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, actually.
Yeah, I think this another direction could be, it depends on what you need. You can change the views, either that's a list view or a card view. I think I can imagine for card view, you are browsing what's available in there. Then it's more visual. You don't need a lot of detailed information. But if you are searching for a specific type of information, some kind of table view could be handy. Just something, yeah, coming to my mind. I'm not sure how viable that is.
Right, but that's I think that's switching between different presentations, right? Maybe from
Yeah.
cards to a table view.
Yeah.
I think that's eventually very desirable. I think we should probably look into what do we need from this card or thumbnail display now, and ship with that initially. Emily, do you are you okay playing around with stuff and showing us what you maybe come up with, or do you need specific input, or both? Or?
Yeah, so that's definitely something I can do. Change this to a card style and add affordance for expanding out the time and creator, and then maybe we can review that either in the issue or next week in the next UX meeting.
Cool.
And then do we still have 1 day to finish it, or I don't know how much time do we have left? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't think that
for release just 8.3, etc.
No.
We're thinking about getting media library into 8.3 at this point.
Okay.
That was always kind of a stretch goal.
Okay, yeah, there's two things. Yeah, okay.
Right. But that is a good segue onto the place block thing. If we do we have anything else that we want to talk about on media?
Not from me.
Have enough work from Emily.
Yeah, I think this is a good amount. So it was a great discussion.
Thanks for working on this.
Yeah, guys, I have a curious question, because we were talking about these filters, and they doesn't seem to be themed. Yeah, I'm trying. When I use Drupal, the configuration interface, they all look like this. Do you know if there's a reason for this, or just we haven't done any work about theming all these filters? Like at least make them the same height, for example, the text field and the filter height.
There is. Yeah, that's essentially what we were talking about before, about adding, giving them a better appearance and better usability by introducing something like select to, or something like that. There has been some work done around standardizing the way those things look. Depending on which browser you're in, the selects are styled if you're in a WebKit browser, they're styled, for some reason they were styled only for WebKit. When 7 theme was first redesigned for 8, the selects, I don't know why they weren't styled for all browsers, but anyway, that's another question. But certainly, yeah, there's things that could be done in 7 themes still to improve them, and there are actually open issues to do that. There's to Roy's earlier point about collapsing them up in a field set, there is an open issue to place them in a field set and have them all be inline and more more compact to take up less vertical space. I don't know where that is. I thought it was close to RTBC, but I'm not sure. I haven't seen it. I haven't looked at it recently. You know the issue I'm talking about, right, Roy?
I think so. I don't know the number.
But yeah, I guess the short answer to your question is, sure, there's lots of work that we could do to make them better.
Okay, yeah, I'm just checking because kind of new to this. Thanks for the explanation.
Yeah, I think I even started some kind of meta issue which collected screenshots of all the different filters we have on different admin pages, just as a starter for anyone who wanted to look at the range of options we use and well, as input for an eventual redesign.
Yeah,
I'll look it up.
So so if I could move on to the place block. So Emily did a lot of work on place block when that first went in as a experimental module, and now we're at the point where we're coming up on 8.3 getting released, and I think there's very little work that we would need to do to make it stable. I just RTBC'd one issue that has been sort of kicking around for a while, which is the one about the sort of Ajax throbber being outside of the box. That one looks perfect to me. And there's a bug. There's the bug where space was added at the top of the page. That's the other issue. And there's just one other issue besides that, blocking it being. These are. I don't know whether there are other blockers who are being stable. Maybe Gabor could weigh in on this, but as far as what I saw, or I quickly glanced through, I think those are the only must-haves. And the third issue is people being able to choose the weight of the block that they just added. And I think that might be non-trivial, but I just updated that issue as well, which is basically to just route the user to the block place page or the block layout page, but inside of the modal, as a sort of a minimally viable solution. I don't know whether that is trivial or not, Gabor. Maybe you could give us some insight on that.
Yeah, I haven't looked into implementing that, so I don't know. Unfortunately, no.
Okay. I know that we have done it. I know that Ted's patch. No, actually, no, that's not true. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of a different patch. We haven't done it with settings tray, but we would be able to do it more easily with settings tray if we put that modal in. So I guess there's two ways that we could go about this. One is that we could say that's not minimally viable. Users don't necessarily have to place or choose the weight in order to place the block. And this module can be stable without that thing. Or we could say, let's just get that over the finish line and get a patch in for that, and make it stable that way. I don't know what anybody else thinks about that, but I think given that we're at 8.3 and there's so little to do remaining on this, it would seem a shame to me to not get it to stable.
So what's the deadline for making it stable?
We have I don't know how many days. take 8 days or 7 days or something?
I'm not sure that the alpha is the deadline for making things stable, but
It's not? Oh, well, that would be good.
well, I don't make me accountable for those words, but
No. We'll stop the recording. Sorry.
I'll try to Google for it, but I don't know where it's written down or if it's written down or anything.
But yeah, alpha is not the deadline for everything. That's true. I read that. But what is and what is not, I don't know.
So, how do experimental modules become stable? An existing experimental module may be marked as alpha, beta, or release candidate at any time, including patch releases, except during the overall core release candidate phase. So, before the beta phase for each minor release, core committees review the status of all experimental modules in core and work with the modules maintainers to reassess their stability and whether they are still on track to become stable modules. So basically, until RC1, there's possibility to make place block stable.
Okay, well, that's good. That means we have a little bit more time, and we can probably resolve this final issue around getting the people to be able to weight the blocks in the same flow that they place them in, which I think everybody would agree is probably is better than the way it is right now.
No.
Which is that you're routed back to the place block or the block layout UI from whence you must then navigate back to your page yourself to see whether you block in place, which is less than ideal.
That is a bit of a pity to end up on that screen even.
Yeah. It's like, why did we even put a button on the front end of the site if all it does is route us back here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So RC1 is February 27th, so it's a month from now. So it's not a lot of time, but it's definitely more time than 8 days.
Okay, cool. Excellent. All right.
We should try to recruit people and get them.
Push for it. Get somebody to work.
Maybe Peter Wolleman will pick it up again. I saw him in the issue, so it's possible we could rope him into it if we talk nice. Yeah, one other issue, we're at like 3 minutes left, so I guess we don't really have time to go into that, but I can bring it up in the next meeting. It's kind of a DX question.
Well, if you think we have the right people, we can talk about it.
No, we're not the right people.
Well, maybe.
I don't know.
Developers are people too.
No.
Yeah.
So the question is, in the short remaining time that we have left, the question is, so we want to make it easy for people to make things outside in. We want to make it easy for module developers to make things outside in. And with our development hats on, I guess the alternatives are that that off-canvas is part of the off-canvas library is part of dialogue, right? And that when you're creating a module, you have a way of adding dialogue to your module, and one of the choices that you can have is off-canvas dialogue. The other option is having off-canvas be an entirely separate library that gives you all of the styling that we've provided in the outside-in module, which the off-canvas one doesn't currently do, which the dialogue one doesn't currently do. I would personally, my ideal scenario would be to see everyone who does something outside in using the same library of CSS in their forms so that we get some consistency. But from a developer experience point of view, is that easier or harder if we locate this in an entirely different library that they then have to attach in their libraries?
So you're looking for feedback on where to put the library, right?
Where to put the library?
Package it with a
how to
loading.
package it, and what the developer
separately.
experience should be, there, and how it should be organized.
Well, Gabor, Emily, think out loud.
I mean, it's always nice to not have to know to include an extra library.
So it's included by default. You just pick the so the question, what the question comes down to though is, it's a question of, so we can do that. We could have it automatically default to this library, which styles the off-canvas tray with the styling that you've been seeing for the last several months of the dark background and everything, right? But the question that Ted brought up was, if we make that the default way that anything with using off-canvas tray is presented, then the themer has to theme around that or has to theme over that. If that's the library that automatically gets loaded by default. Or do we not load any library and let them choose to load that library if they want to, or create their own theme styles for their trays if they want to do that? So I guess it's like a better out-of-the-box experience versus a more flexible experience for the theming community.
One thing I noticed is that theming or customizing admin is the first item that gets ripped out of the estimate. So I would suggest to provide a better default and make it a bit more work to override it, maybe. But that's a non-dev perspective. But yeah.
That's the direction that personally that I would go as well. But yeah, but I know exactly who starts to scream, Morton, when we start to do things like this. So
yeah, I mean, so few themers want to spend time on theming admin. It seems like we're making it much more work for all of the ones who don't want to spend that time. So.
I'd be more worried that my front-end theming would bleed into that stuff and mess it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which it can, but we've tried to make a reset, to fence off bleed through like that. There's no way to completely do it, but until we get the shadow down, we won't be able to do that completely. Mm-hmm. So I think the consensus seems to be better to have a good out-of-the-box experience, and if it's a little bit more difficult for people to theme around it, that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
I think that's, yeah.
For what it's worth. Yes.
All righty.
Is that a decision that will be part of some patch, or is that?
It's not even going to be something in 8. It's not going to be in 8.3. The default experience in 8.3 is going to be that if you want to have it styled like it is styled in outside-in module, you would have to do that work yourself to pull in those styles, or to add those classes essentially.
Okay.
But we're looking at. I have a patch right now that I've created to go into 8.4, and it may be possible that we could make the patch for 8.4 and then backport it before 8.3 goes out. We'll see. it's a outside chance that we might be able to do that.
Okay. Let's wrap it up.
All right.
Thanks all.
everyone for coming.
Thanks.
See you next week.
Yes.
Yeah, see you next week.
Goodbye.
And feel free to reach out in the meantime. Bye.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
You have
Hey.
a baby coming soon, right, Roy?
Sorry?
Or did I mishear? Do you have a baby coming soon?
No.
Did somebody say?
No, we're done.
You're done?
Yes.
I must have misread that somewhere.
I think so.
I know
Later.
that order.
That's the one.
All right.